300 years ago, a disaster caused magical energy to go out of control, leading to a terrible war where a demon tribe invaded humanity. Human civilization was nearly destroyed until 10 powerful individuals awakened great magic abilities and built giant walls to protect the survivors. These 10 heroes created inheritance occupations, special roles that only one person can hold at a time, and they became the protectors of humanity. In Fengchuan City, the annual Occupation Awakening ceremony is about to begin. A young man named Lin Feng arrives, jumping from a vehicle and thanking the driver, Uncle Jiang. Lin Feng observes the large buildings and lively crowd, noting how busy the annual test is. At this test, people of age awaken their class or occupation, which ranges from common to very rare and powerful. Lin Feng watches other young attendees desperately praying to statues of past heroes, hoping for a high-ranking occupation. He sees one student crying while praying to a celestial maiden, and finds it funny that people are so openly daydreaming about becoming powerful. A student with a buzz cut approaches Lin Feng, explaining a rumor that a new inheritance professional will appear this year to fill an empty spot among the human heroes. Hearing this, Lin Feng rubs his chin with a calculating look. He thinks everyone's desperation will make his business very successful today. Suddenly, magical fireworks explode in the sky, signaling that the test is starting. Students walk through a magical portal to get their results. While some receive low ranks, a student named Gay Fei is announced as an S rank with a very high mana level. The buzzcut boy watches Gay Fei with jealousy, wishing he had that much mana. Seeing his chance, Lin Feng holds up a tomato in front of the jealous boy's face, asking if he wants one that can increase his mana. Lin Feng smiles like a salesman, calling himself a spirit plant doctor. He offers to sell the tomato for 5 gold coins, explaining it temporarily boosts mana by 5%. To prove his stock, Lin Feng opens a bag of glowing vegetables, showing off sweet potatoes that stop hunger, cucumbers for weight loss, and potatoes that increase attack power. The crowd looks at Lin Feng with suspicion, wondering if it is a scam since they have never heard of spirit plants with such effects. Seeing their hesitation, Lin Feng cunningly announces his stock is limited and first come, first served, offering a free sample to the first customer. The student with the buzz cut remains skeptical, holding the tomato to his mouth and sweating nervously. Finally, he takes a bite to test the merchandise. A burst of golden energy erupts around him, and he excitedly shouts that his mana has genuinely increased and his body feels much lighter. Seeing this miracle, the other students are shocked. A rumor spreads that the vegetables must be from the prestigious Extraordinary Academy's College of Agriculture, convincing them this is a special event. Just then, a blond young man in a suit winks at Lin Feng, pretending to be a desperate customer and demanding to buy everything in the bag. The trick works perfectly, and the crowd goes into a frenzy, pushing to buy the vegetables before they sell out, with some claiming they can already feel the buffs. Lin Feng watches the chaos with satisfaction. Although he is just a farmer, his max-level crops naturally possess magical buffs. He admits to using marketing tricks, but the product's quality is real. Later, away from the crowd, Lin Feng sits outside a shop counting his money. He looks up as someone approaches him. It is the blonde man, his secret accomplice. The man reads a list of expenses for seeds, fertilizer, and potions, which totals 257 gold. Lin Feng hands over the money, settling his 10 gold debt. As he pays, he complains that buying expensive, high-grade fertilizer has left him broke again. His friend thanks him, calling him Brother Lin Feng, and asks why he doesn't just grow more plants if they are so profitable. In response to the ignorant question, Lin Feng angrily slaps his friend in a cartoonish way, asking if he thinks growing magical plants is easy. As they part, his friend sighs that it's a shame a talented child like Lin Feng ended up as a farmer. Lin Feng ignores the pity and tells his friend to hurry home to his mother. Walking alone, Lin Feng reflects on the irony of being a childhood genius who only awakened as a lowly N-rank farmer. His father was a powerful archdruid and his mother a herbalist, but their combined genetics made a farmer. Still, he is satisfied with his peaceful life, happy he won't die on a battlefield like his father. As he walks through the city, he resolves to run his farm well to make his mother happy. Suddenly, a drop of liquid lands on Lin Feng's nose. He wipes it away, confused, wondering if it's raining under a clear sky. Suddenly, a man falls from the sky, screaming as he plummets toward the street. The stranger crashes violently onto the pavement right in front of Lin Feng. The badly injured man, surrounded by broken equipment, desperately tries to use a communication device. With a terrified look, the injured man yells that the inheritance professional, Necromancer Mo-an, has betrayed humanity and intends to give his inheritance to the demon tribe. Before he can finish, a massive hand of dark magical energy descends upon him. Lin Feng watches in panic, unable to comprehend that a hero would give power to the demons. A dark void opens above, and a voice mocks the man for not running away as a sinister figure emerges from the portal. Mo-An steps out, surrounded by dark magic. He complains that a wound from forbidden magic slowed his escape and reveals his motive. The demons promised him an undying body for the inheritance. Suddenly, Mo-An notices he is not alone. Realizing he is at a murder scene, Lin Feng tries to sneak away while Mo-An is distracted. However, a giant claw of shadow magic extends toward him. Mo-An coldly asks if he gave him permission to leave. The entity grabs Lin Feng's throat, lifting him. He identifies the man he killed as Dean Yueye and decides he will use Lin Feng's blood and bones to commemorate the death. Lin Feng struggles helplessly, realizing Mo-An's mana is too powerful to break free from. Desperate to survive, Lin Feng frantically searches his mind for any skill or item that could help him escape. He recalls that his farming tool mastery has reached max level, granting him a skill called farming tool summoning, which he activates to conjure a weapon. Gripping the handle of the summoned hoe, Lin Feng prepares to strike, while Mo-An is distracted by his own arrogance. With a shout, Lin Feng swings the farming tool violently, striking Mo-An's arm and demanding to be released. Mo-An is completely taken aback, shocked that a kid with a simple farmer occupation was capable of hurting him. The surprise attack forces Mo-An to let go, and Lin Feng lands safely on the ground. Lin Feng immediately spots the energy weapon dropped by the dead Dean. He grabs it, knowing it is his only chance. He pulls the trigger and unleashes a massive beam of blue energy at the hovering Mo-An. However, Mo-An easily counters the attack with a technique called Swirl Absorber, catching the blast in a vortex of dark magic. He glares down at Lin Feng, unimpressed by the futile resistance. Suddenly, the sky distorts with magical portals. The villain realizes in alarm that a magic array dancer has set up a tracking formation to locate him. Knowing he is out of time and cannot escape in his current state, Mo-An desperately decides to steal Lin Feng's body to escape. Mo-An transforms into a streak of dark energy and charges straight down at the helpless farmer. The dark spirit slams into Lin Feng, forcibly entering his body and making him scream in agony as the possession begins. Inside Lin Feng's mind, the struggle for control begins. Mo-An arrogantly tells his host that for a low-rank occupation, his innate talent is actually quite good. He tells the young farmer to feel lucky to serve as a vessel for such a powerful being. However, Lin Feng is not intimidated. He smirks defiantly, retorting that he has trained his body every day since childhood and warns the intruder to work hard for it. The villain looms over him, scoffing at the resistance. He states that a low-rank occupation is meaningless against power the farmer could never reach. In the physical world, Lin Feng collapses, unable to fight off the possession. He admits to himself that luck is not on his side this time. Despite his helpless position, Lin Feng spots a sharp weapon on the ground nearby and reaches for it. He grabs the spear tightly, his eyes filled with desperate intensity. He decides that if he is going to fall, he will take them both down together. Seeing Lin Feng turn the weapon toward his own body, the dark spirit panics and screams, asking what he is doing. Without hesitation, Lin Feng stabs the spear deep into his own chest. Blood splatters as he declares he would rather choose mutual destruction than allow Mo-An to possess him. As his consciousness fades, Lin Feng thinks of his late father, hoping to avoid a scolding from him. After his desperate act, Lin Feng lies motionless on the ground. The dark energy of Mo-An swirls in his chest, mixing with the blood. However, instead of death, a brilliant blinding golden light erupts from his chest, overpowering the darkness. The spirit of Mo-An is struck with terror. He stares at the light, unable to understand if the young man's mana is exploding. The golden light forms into massive, root-like tendrils of energy that surge upward, surrounding Mo-An's spirit. Mo-An screams that this is impossible as the golden roots wrap tightly around him, binding him completely. The magical roots continue to tighten until the dark spirit is completely cocooned and immobilized. Unable to withstand the power, the cocoon shatters violently, destroying Mo-An's hold in a massive explosion of light. A system notification suddenly appears. Congratulations! You have acquired a new talent, the inheritance occupation, Necromancer. In the real world, the protagonist's eyes snap open, filled with shock. He stands up, looking down at his body in disbelief. He realizes that he is still alive, and his wounds have healed. He is overjoyed to find he still has full control over his body and that Mo-An failed to possess him. Curious about the changes within him, he crouches and opens his system interface. The status screen confirms his evolution. His occupation has mutated into a Spirit Farm Lord, variant, unique. His stats have skyrocketed with strength, constitution, and luck at 300. His skills now combine his farming abilities with new Necromancer skills like Undead Affinity, Undead Summoning, and Soul Siphon. Lin Feng looks at his holographic status screen, surprised. He is shocked that even though he was reset to level 1, he kept the high stats from his max level farmer class, making him incredibly strong for a beginner. His mana has also increased significantly, likely from absorbing the soul power of the villain who tried to possess him. He calculates that as he levels up again, his stats will exceed the normal limits for a farmer. Scanning his new skills, Lin Feng finds Undead Summoning. He's skeptical, worried he might accidentally bring back the villain if he uses it. To test his control, green nature energy surges in one hand and dark purple necromancy energy in the other. He attempts to fuse the two opposing energies. As they merge, he wonders if his occupation has split, or if he's gained a second one. His skill tree confirms the man was a legendary awakener whose power merged with his farming skills. Annoyed, Lin Feng complains that the combined energy has an ugly crap yellow color. He cautiously approaches the villain's glowing purple body, wondering if the enemy is truly dead. The dark power inside him isn't fully tamed. He must quickly convert it into his own, or his farmer occupation could collapse and his mind be devoured again. He focuses intensely, fusing the energies in his hand. To finalize his control, he casts Undead Summoning. The villain's glowing body disintegrates into light and vanishes. Two powerful spirits appear, Yue Ye, the late dean, now an undead sage, and the villain He Xiao, now an undead hound. He is satisfied that while their levels are reset, they kept their abilities. But sensing the enforcement team approaching, he decides he must flee. Putting on his backpack, he feels anxious. No one would believe a farmer killed two powerful beings, and if the truth got out, it would be a disaster for him. Despite the danger, he smiles. His priority is to find a place with resources and good land to safely test his new powers and realize his father's theories. A day later at his family's farm, Lin Feng sees the Necromancer's influence remains. Inspecting a plant swirling with purple energy, he sees the crops grown with his new power are strange. Magic courses through the plant, making it grow rapidly with glowing green leaves and dark purple shadows. The plant twists into a web-like structure pulsating with dark lightning. It blooms into a massive, ominous cabbage-like plant with a dark void at its center. As a small bird flies by, black tendrils shoot out, wrap around it, and drag it into a mouth lined with sharp pink spikes. Lin Feng is horrified by the monstrosity he created. He thinks if anyone saw the man-eating plant, they would assume it was a demon invasion. Realizing the danger, he frantically digs up the mutated crop before anyone sees it. Staring at the bagged plant, still emitting strange energy, he feels dizzy and wonders how his mana caused such a mutation. He also realizes its potential. If he can control this power, he might be able to actively guide the mutation. He rubs his chin, thinking he could finally create the special high-value crops his father envisioned, crops that could strengthen a person's occupation. Later, a breaking news report interrupts his TV show. An anchor announces that the necromancer He Xiao staged a rebellion, murdered Dean Yue Ye, and is now wanted for monstrous crimes. The report warns that anyone harboring him will face the same charges. Lin Feng listens grimly, realizing the authorities are hunting the man whose soul he absorbed. His undead powers must remain a secret. Looking at his farming tools, he decides to give his undead servants a deceptive name. He knows revealing the truth would mean serious trouble. He comes up with a clever solution. He'll call his undead summons farmhands. He reasons that as a spirit farm lord, it's normal for him to have servants. Later, he sees an ad for the Extraordinary Academy. It's expanding enrollment due to pressure from the demon tribe, offering successful applicants resources, subsidies, and a private manor with high-grade land. This solidifies his plan. The Academy's safe land and resources are exactly what he needs. He must get admitted as his spirit farm lord identity seems harmless, unlike his dangerous necromancer powers. Lin Feng arrives at the bustling Extraordinary Academy registration plaza. At a registration desk, he gives his details. Lin Feng, 18, a level 1 spirit farm lord. The interviewer, a man with a goatee, is unimpressed. Scoffing that he's never heard of the occupation, he accuses Lin Feng of bluffing and demands to see his aura. Lin Feng complies, showing a surging green magical aura from his hand. The interviewer scoffs in disgust at the trashy aura of a farmer and yells for the next applicant, telling Lin Feng not to waste his time. Other students in line mock Lin Feng, calling his spirit farm lord title trash and telling him to go back to his fields, all while flattering the interviewer. Lin Feng remains calm despite the mockery. He explains his occupation is a variant and asks for a chance, insisting his fundamentals are solid. The interviewer refuses to listen, questioning what fundamentals a level 1 piece of trash could have. He then shouts for security to throw Lin Feng out. Not backing down, Lin Feng holds up the admissions guide. He points out the rules allow all occupations to test and threatens to report the man for violating protocol. The interviewer smirks, unfazed by the threat. He claims another teacher will prevent Lin Feng from taking the exam anyway. Suddenly, the interviewer snatches the phone from Lin Feng's hand. Leaning in aggressively, the interviewer gets in Lin Feng's face and threatens to make him regret it if he reports him. Other students whisper that the interviewer is going too far. One rumors that Instructor Lee failed a recent promotion and is taking his anger out on applicants. Ignoring the whispers, Instructor Lee shouts at the crowd to either take the test or get out. Ignoring the other students' mockery, Lin Feng calmly walks toward the examination area entrance. Behind him, Instructor Lee smokes and sneers, shouting that it's not too late for Lin Feng to give up and apologize for his arrogance. Lin Feng ignores him and thanks the instructor for leading the way as he enters the magical portals to the test area. Inside the test zone, a dense forest of massive tree roots, Lin Feng leaps agilely through the gaps. He lands silently on a large root, scouting his surroundings. He decides to hunt the magic horned rabbits using an industrialized farming method instead of hunting them one by one. Lin Feng retrieves a jar of his special carrot essence powder from his backpack, which is potent enough to lure high-level monsters. He scatters the powder over a flat section of the giant roots. Almost immediately, a pink-horned rabbit pops out of the ground, lured by the scent. Seeing the bait works, Lin Feng casts his spell, summoning his two undead servants. The spirits of Yue Ye, the undead sage, and He Xiao, the undead hound, materialize in armor. Lin Feng tells them waiting for rabbits is too slow. He commands them to slaughter every magic-horned rabbit lured to the spot, as long as no one is watching. The two powerful undead entities immediately burst from their hiding spot. He Xiao, the purple-armored spirit, swings a dark energy sword, instantly slicing through several rabbits in midair. Meanwhile, Yue Ye, the blue-armored spirit, traps dozens of rabbits in floating water bubbles with magic. Watching the slaughter, Lin Feng is surprised by their efficiency. Even at level 1, the two former masters are incredibly powerful undead assets. The time limit for the exam expires, signaled by a hand ringing a bell. Instructor Lee announces that all candidates must come forward and turn in their rabbit horns. The results are dismal. Instructor Lee harshly fails students with only 2 or 3 horns, wondering why the rabbits were so scarce. He tells a student with 4 horns they were lucky, as many found none. When it's Lin Feng's turn, Instructor Lee reverts to his bullying, sneering that the trash probably didn't get a single horn. In response, Lin Feng simply smiles and activates a green magic circle from his hand. Suddenly, an avalanche of pink rabbit corpses pours from the magic circle, burying Instructor Lee and his desk under a massive pile. Instructor Lee and his assistant scream in shock as the pile of rabbits engulfs them. Lin Feng smiles cheerfully at the pile and says there are 500 magic horns, asking if the instructor wants to count them. Instructor Lee struggles out of the pile, furious. He stammers that 500 horns is impossible and accuses Lin Feng of cheating. Before the argument escalates, a commanding voice scolds Lee for bullying a child. A tall, elderly man with a monocle appears, whom Lee fearfully recognizes as the director. The director remarks he had to intervene, fearing his pet rabbits were being lost to someone with no ethics. The director stares sternly at Lee, overrules him, and declares that Lin Feng has passed the test. Lin Feng bows his head respectfully to the older man, thanking the director for his fairness. The director leans in, peering through his monocle, and comments that Lin Feng feels very familiar. Hearing this, Lin Feng breaks into a cold sweat, his eye twitching. Walking away, he's filled with anxiety, wondering if the director sensed the hidden necromancer power within him and blew his cover. The director seriously asks the young student about his relationship with Professor Lin Si. Lin Feng sighs in relief, realizing the director was only asking about his family, not his secret necromancer abilities. Smiling politely, Lin Feng confirms Lin Xie is his father and asks if the director knew him. The director's intimidating demeanor vanishes. Realizing Lin Feng is an old friend's son, he smiles warmly and offers to help him enroll. However, a woman with pink hair and glasses coughs loudly to interrupt, reminding the director that students and staff are watching his blatant favoritism. The other students whisper, confused by the director's sudden mood swing, but he laughs it off, saying it was just an offhand comment. Before leaving, the director calls Lin Feng nephew and promises a personal tour of the academy once he is enrolled, making his favoritism clear. As the director vanishes in a swirl of wind magic, Lin Feng feels nervous, finding the powerful man unreliable and sketchy. After the director leaves, the pink-haired woman takes charge. She tells the students who pass to follow her and encourages the others to try again next time. Later, inside the Extraordinary Academy's investigation room, a serious meeting is underway. A scarred man stands before a board with photos of the deceased Dean Yue Ye and the villain, He Xiao. He suggests the dean discovered He Xiao's secret, which led to a confrontation. The investigator believes that while the two men killed each other, a mastermind must have stolen He Xiao's inheritance talent. He excitedly declares they just need to find the person with the necromancer talent to uncover the truth. An annoyed blue-haired man at the table tells the scarred man, Tuka, to stop making baseless speculations just to get credit for the case. Furious that no one believes him, Tuka slams the table, shouts he'll find the evidence himself, and storms out. After he leaves, the remaining colleagues note that Tuka, one of the Duke's men, is difficult to control. The director suddenly appears with wind magic, dismissing Tuka's departure. He states the academy is for training elites, not politics, and orders his staff to kill the villain He Xiao on sight. The director grimly clarifies that anyone using necromancer skills, even if it's not He Xiao, must be killed immediately, unknowingly sentencing Lin Feng to death. At the academy's retest mission hall, a large blue magical portal is active. The pink-haired instructor announces the retest. New students must clear the level 5 demonic beast lair dungeon within 3 hours. The students panic, complaining that a level 5 dungeon is too difficult for their current level and worrying about the time limit. The instructor smiles reassuringly, explaining they can form teams of up to 5 people and must register once ready. The hall erupts into chaos as students desperately search for teammates, seeking high-level players to help them. Amidst the chaos, Lin Feng stands alone, silently looking at his interface. He notices someone approaching him. He turns to look. A young woman with pink hair and buns, a level 7 magic user, approaches him. She saw his performance in the preliminary test and, thinking he's strong, asks to team up. Lin Feng considers the offer. While a level 7 mage is very powerful, he can't risk exposing his secret necromancer abilities to a teammate. He politely refuses, saying he prefers to go alone. The girl accepts his refusal and wishes him luck. Lin Feng then walks toward the registration desk. The pink-haired instructor looks at him, confused, and asks if he's really entering the difficult dungeon alone. She hands him the scroll, guessing he wants the Black Bear's Gall solo clear reward. She advises him to be careful and act within his abilities. Lin Feng confidently takes the scroll and thanks her for the warning. At the entrance to the demonic beast lair, a blue portal swirls inside a stone mouth, guarded by staff in suits. As Lin Feng approaches the portal, 2 guards stop him and ask for his teammates. Lin Feng calmly says he is alone. A concerned guard explains a level 5 dungeon is too dangerous for one person and advises him to find a team. Unfazed, Lin Feng shows his mission scroll, pointing out that the rules allow solo entry. The surprised guards realize he must be attempting the dangerous solo run for the Black Bear's Gall reward. They comment that he has guts but question if he has the strength to survive. Seeing his determination, the guards step aside, and one wishes him luck as he enters the portal. Inside the dungeon is a dark cavern filled with strange, purple, egg-like rocks. Lin Feng emerges from the light, looking calm and prepared. 2 large, spiky lizard monsters appear. Lin Feng, now level 6, knows these level 3 and 4 monsters are no longer a threat. He summons his spirits, which instantly kill the lizard monsters. He looks ahead and sees the density of enemies is surprisingly high. He sees a massive nest filled with glowing red eyes. Facing this swarm, he decides to test a new summoning method. Lin Feng activates Undead summoning, and purple lightning erupts from the ground around the lizard corpses. The dead monsters rise again, their bodies now made of spectral blue fire and dark energy. Like a general, Lin Feng points toward the nest and commands his new minions to charge. A chaotic battle begins between the undead and living monsters. Lin Feng and his elite spirits watch, noting the undead are aggressive but unintelligent, only able to follow simple commands. Watching the battle, Lin Feng notes these summons use less mana. True to his farmer nature, he wonders if they could be trained for simple farm chores. Lin Feng commands his 2 elite spirits to attack, and they quickly leap into the fight. He Xiao, the undead hound, proves his dominance by swinging his weapon and slicing a monster in half with 1 strike. Meanwhile, Yue, the undead sage, focuses his magic. He casts a spell that traps several monsters inside floating water bubbles, leaving them helpless. As his elite spirits work, Lin Feng's mind wanders to farming. He realizes that unlike monster spirits, human form undead retain their intelligence and skills, meaning they could handle complex farm work in the future. The battle between the undead and living monsters intensifies. Thanks to his army's efficiency, a notification announces that Lin Feng has reached level 7. Surrounded by his spectral minions, Lin Feng praises their efficiency in clearing the area. He continues deeper, pleased that after only half an hour, he has reached the dungeon's boss room. Inside, massive metal chains rattle under great tension. A gigantic bear monster roars as it struggles against its chains. Facing the boss, Lin Feng smiles fearlessly, deciding it's the perfect time to test his combined combat power. He acts as a commander, ordering He Xiao to engage the boss up front and Yue to weaken it with curses. He tells the smaller units to attack the boss's joints and eyes. The giant bear is bombarded with attacks from all sides. While his summons do the work, Lin Feng sits comfortably on a picnic mat in the corner. He eats a mana recovery berry and watches the battle like a spectator, satisfied that his team's coordination is improving. As the battle climaxes, He Xiao, the undead hound, nimbly evades the beast's chain attacks. The spirit gathers dark energy and charges up a final devastating strike. The attack hits, and a massive explosion of energy completely destroys the dungeon boss. After the boss is defeated, a notification informs Lin Feng he has reached level 8. Lin Feng walks over to inspect the loot dropped by the boss. He picks up the rare Black Bear's Gall, the solo clear reward. He is unimpressed, complaining the 10-point constitution boost is useless compared to the buffs from his magical crops. The system then calculates his dungeon rewards, detecting his 2 unique occupations, farmer and necromancer. To his surprise, 2 reward chests appear in front of him instead of 1. Realizing dual occupations mean double rewards, Lin Feng grins. He wonders if this loophole also applies to farming and could double his crop yields. Later, Lin Feng walks out of the portal, looking calm. Nearby, exhausted and injured students stare in disbelief, wondering if he cleared it alone. The students refuse to believe it. Seeing him clean and uninjured, they angrily accuse him of hiding inside the dungeon, claiming it's impossible to fight the monsters without getting hurt. Ignoring them, Lin Feng walks to the podium and gives his mission scroll to the pink-haired instructor. She opens the scroll and sees a glowing green checkmark, confirming the mission was successful. The instructor is shocked that a student actually passed the test solo, something she had thought was impossible. In response to her stunned silence, Lin Feng just gives a polite, confident smile. The pink-haired instructor takes Lin Feng's mission scroll, but lectures him sternly. She warns that clearing the dungeon solo was too risky, explaining a new student's death would be a massive PR problem for the academy. Lin Feng acts like a humble student, smiling politely and telling the instructor he understands her concern. Satisfied, the instructor tells him the final interview is in the auditorium but advises him to rest first, as he must be exhausted. As Lin Feng leaves the office, he passes a glass wall. Unaware, 3 male students watch him from the hallway with predatory looks. Back in the office, the instructor adjusts her glasses. She wrongly believes Lin Feng barely survived and hopes he learned not to be so rash. Lin Feng walks alone down a quiet wooded path on the academy grounds. Suddenly, his senses warn him of danger. The 3 students from earlier are sneaking up behind the trees with a large sack, planning an ambush. Lin Feng stops walking. Without looking back, magic energy swirls in his hand as he prepares to fight. In the bushes, the 3 ambushers hesitate. They whisper, worried that he cleared the dungeon solo, but reason he's under level 10 and exhausted. They decide they can take him. Greed takes over, and the leader decides to use their numbers to steal his reward. They rush from the bushes, shouting for Lin Feng to stand still. Lin Feng turns slowly, looking unbothered. He calmly asks if they are shouting at him. The 3 bullies surround him, activating their magic. They mock him for getting lucky and demand he hand over the demonic bear gall and skill scroll. They tell him to learn his place as a lowly farmer. Lin Feng scratches his cheek, looking confused. He asks why, of all the candidates, they chose to target him. One bully with buck teeth leans uncomfortably close. He points a finger and asks if Lin Feng is faking ignorance. The bullies explain they desperately want the demonic bear gall, a rare item that permanently adds 10 constitution. They claim it's wasted on a farmer. A system graphic in Lin Feng's mind shows the rare demonic bear gall gives pleasant 10 constitution. However, his own constitution watermelon also gives pleasant 10 constitution. Lin Feng looks at them with pity and amusement. He thinks they're risking expulsion for a treasure, no better than the watermelons he grows effortlessly in his backyard. The confrontation takes an unexpected turn. Deciding to play with his attackers, Lin Feng holds out the glowing demonic bear gall and asks if this is what they want. The bucktooth student, blinded by greed, reaches out to snatch the treasure, demanding Lin Feng give it to him. But before he can touch it, an explosion of magical fire erupts between them. In shock, the burst of flames forces the 3 bullies to leap backward to avoid being burned. As the smoke clears, the girl with pink hair buns steps in to protect Lin Feng. Pointing her staff at the bullies, she scolds them, warning that private fights are prohibited and could get them disqualified. The bully leader isn't intimidated. He recognizes her as Ai Ling and rudely tells her this has nothing to do with her. Ai Ling glares back, retorting she can't stand their bullying, so she is making it her business. She spins her staff, creating swirling fire magic. She gives them an ultimatum: leave now, or she will report them. The bully leader smirks, unbothered. He sneers she'll need a chance to report them first. Since she is protecting the useless farmer, they'll just beat her up too. He shouts to his lackeys, and the 3 draw their weapons, swords and axes, charging to attack both Ai Ling and Lin Feng. Lin Feng watches from behind with a detached look. He calculates that Ai Ling, a level 7, should be strong enough to handle these weaklings alone. Watching the three men charge, Eiling disgustedly calls out their dirty tactics. She turns to Lin Feng, intending to form an alliance and suggesting they team up to fight them. To her complete shock, she sees Lin Feng is already sprinting away in the opposite direction, leaving her behind. As he runs, Lin Feng tosses the demonic bear gall high in the air toward her. Ailing reflexively catches the fleshy item. Lin Feng looks back with a wink. He thanks the kind stranger for helping and says the treasure is hers, making her the new target. Eiling is frozen in confusion, realizing she's been tricked. Seeing the treasure in her hands, the bullies now attack her. She mentally complains that instead of being a hero, she's the one being robbed. Later, in a restroom, Lin Feng sits with a towel around his neck. He inspects the skill scroll he looted, confused because it seems useless to him. He rests his chin on his hand in thought until he has a sudden realization about his dual abilities. Acting on his hunch, Lin Feng holds the scroll and channels both his green spirit plant and purple necromancer mana into it. The experiment works. A system notification announces he has learned a new skill, Special Cultivation. Lin Feng reads the description with interest. The beginner skill lets him use mana and materials to cultivate his undead summons like plants, which can increase their level and quality. Lin Feng grins, realizing the scroll wasn't useless. It just required 2 types of mana to be activated at once, something only he could do. Eager to test his new power, he stands and summons his entire undead squad, including the lizards and 2 elites. He activates Special Cultivation, and green life-giving energy flows from his fingers to his undead servants. The effects are immediate. The status screen for He Xiao, now Black Eagle, shows his level jumping from 6 to 8. Similarly, the undead sage Yue Ye's level increases from 6 to 8, his blue aura intensifying. The massive demonic horned bear he recently resurrected gets the biggest boost, jumping from level 7 to level 9. Even the weaker demonic horned lizards evolve, leveling up from 5 and 6 to level 7. Seeing his army grow much stronger in seconds, Lin Feng smiles with satisfaction, muttering the results aren't bad. His 2 elite generals, He Xiao and Yue Ye, stand behind him, radiating a much more intense energy. However, despite the massive power-up, Lin Feng's expression turns serious as he considers a downside. Relaxing on the couch, he sighs. His concern isn't about fighting, but agriculture. He worries he needs new farmland, as he can't bear ruining his family's fields by experimenting. Lin Feng exits the rest area looking relaxed and unbothered. He immediately runs into Eiling, the girl he tricked earlier. Instead of apologizing, he casually calls out, mentioning the demonic bear gall. With a charming smile, he confirms he gave her the item on purpose. Eiling clutches the package, looking shocked. She exclaims the item is extremely valuable and can't believe he gave it away. Lin Feng looks at her with half-lidded eyes, faking confusion at her reaction. He walks away, thinking it's strange how people treat such trashy material as a treasure, when his own watermelons are superior. Eiling is left dumbfounded. She stammers, wondering if she heard him right, insulted that he called her reward trash. Seeking privacy for his next experiment, Lin Feng hikes deep into the woods. He stops in a dense part of the forest, carefully checking for witnesses. Sure he is alone, he activates Special Cultivation. Energy swirls in his hands as he wonders what this skill for undead will do to plants. He casts the magic on a plant. It twists and mutates into a monstrous carnivorous flower with sharp teeth. Lin Feng stares at the plant with a bored expression. He notes disappointedly that it looks no different from mutations he created on his farm. Lin Feng freezes, noticing a reaction from his experiment. To his surprise, the mutated plant he created grows rapidly into a massive size. Lin Feng watches in shock as the giant plant unroots itself and walks. He realizes his new skill allows his crops to move, creating mobile plant monsters. Meanwhile, the investigator Tuka leaps through the woods, following a reading on his spirit energy detector. He lands on a branch, confident he was correct. He believes he has finally tracked the Necromancer's aura. Tuka drops to the ground and walks past Lin Feng on the path. Lin Feng notices him but keeps walking calmly. However, Tuka stops and grabs Lin Feng's shoulder to detain him. Seeing Lin Feng's clothing, Tuka identifies him as a farmer. He looks at him with disdain and asks if he's seen anything strange, assuming a farmer isn't the threat. Tuka looks at Lin Feng with pure disgust, clearly looking down on his low-ranking occupation. He aggressively demands to know if Lin Feng has seen anyone strange nearby. Lin Feng acts thoughtful and replies he has seen someone strange. Tuka eagerly asks where. With a straight face, Lin Feng points at Tuka's nose. He implies that Tuka himself is the strange person. Tuka explodes with rage at being mocked by trash. He screams he is an elite of the Sunwheel Academy and nephew of the Iron Lion Duke, demanding respect. Unable to handle the humiliation, Tuka declares he will kill the student for his rudeness. Igniting his fist with fire, He punches at Lin Feng's head. Deep in the forest, the confrontation escalates. Furious at being mocked, Tuka transforms into a massive werewolf surrounded by green energy, vowing to make Lin Feng pay. Lin Feng crosses his arms to shield himself from the transformation's force. However, he remains calm. His eyes show he is unimpressed, thinking he can defeat this elite with one hand. In his beast form, Tuka charges with a ball of mana in his claw, ready to kill. Lin Feng intercepts the attack with a kick, shouting for Tuka to taste his special weapon. It is revealed Lin Feng used Monk's Hood, a poisonous farm plant corrupted by undead mana. He ground it into a powder with a powerful paralyzing effect. Tuka inhales the powder from the bag Lin Feng kicked at him. The effect is instant. The beast becomes confused and dizzy, wondering why his strength suddenly vanished. Lin Feng casually picks his nose and explains that it is just common plant powder. Smiling with a sinister green aura, he mocks Tuka, saying that knowledge of plants is a farmer's true power. He then delivers a powerful punch to the weakened beast's jaw. The fight ends in total humiliation for the investigator. Tuka is left stripped to his underwear and tied to a tree. Lin Feng walks away, leaving him to cool off, and mocking him for losing to a simple farmer. Realizing he is late, Lin Feng rushes to the auditorium for his final interview. He arrives at the Extraordinary Academy, where an announcement tells candidates to gather. As Lin Feng walks through the crowd, he hears students gossiping, calling him a coward who lives off women, and doubting his solo dungeon clear. Lin Feng ignores them and scans the crowd. He sees some elite level 5 candidates but remains confident in his advantage. Suddenly, Ai Ling, the pink-haired girl, approaches. She smiles, hands him a paper bag, and says she is returning the item he offered her. Lin Feng declines the offer. He casually tells her to keep it, saying it is useless to him. He walks away, snacking on watermelon. Confused students notice even his fruit provides temporary buffs. Lin Feng wonders why they treat the demonic bear gall as a treasure when his own crops are superior. Inside the auditorium, instructors and students are choosing each other in a mutual selection process. The director looks at his list and calls the first candidate, Shi Yan. A young man with a buzz cut stands and introduces himself as a level 6 Earth Attribute Warrior. To show his worth, Shi Yan summons a large mechanical suit of stone armor. A muscular instructor is impressed, revealing he is a level 44 Earth Berserker and offers to be Shi Yan's mentor. Shi Yan excitedly accepts. The director moves on, eventually calling Lin Feng's name. Lin Feng stands up from the audience. Green energy surrounds him as his status is announced. Level 8, Spirit Farm Lord. His high level causes a stir. The instructors debate his value. One notes that level 8 at his age is impressive, but another dismisses him as just a farmer. The muscular instructor scoffs that the academy trains frontline talent, not cannon fodder, though his colleague notes Lin Feng's excellent test scores. To settle the debate, the director adjusts his monocle and proposes a combat ability assessment for the boy. The other instructors agree, with the muscular one laughing that he does not care either way. The director asks Lin Feng if he will take the test, warning that without combat potential, fighting demons on the front lines is a meaningless sacrifice. Lin Feng looks down, calculating the risk. His combat ability is low, and he must fight without revealing his secret necromancer powers. Facing the challenge, Lin Feng smiles confidently and accepts the proposal. The auditorium's center is cleared for an arena. Lin Feng faces the instructor as students watch from a distance. The Earth Berserker instructor grins, explaining the rule. Lin Feng must last 5 minutes against him to prove his combat talent. Suddenly, the instructor unleashes a massive surge of golden energy, showing his true power. The pressure from his aura forces students to their knees, terrified by the level 40 warrior's power. Lin Feng is pushed back, but remains standing. Onlookers are surprised he seems unaffected by the pressure. Impressed, the instructor praises him and tells him to attack with his full strength. Lin Feng stabilizes himself. He acknowledges the pressure is powerful, but knows he can handle it. He decides to fight back, raising his hand to summon his servants. As he casts his spell, he reveals his strategy. Wrap his undead summons in nature mana to mask their dark aura. A massive, leafy creature appears. Lin Feng thinks no one will suspect the cabbage-like bear is actually an undead monster. The disguised bear roars with green energy. Deceived by the rich nature mana, the instructor assumes it is from a rare variant occupation. Eager for the fight, the instructor draws his dual jagged blades and invites the creature to attack. The cabbage bear lunges forward, and the instructor prepares to intercept it. The massive summon charges across the room at high speed. The instructor meets the charge head-on, clashing blades against the bear's paw in a burst of light. The instructor begins to enjoy the fight, screaming as he unleashes a frenzy of rapid attacks. His blades become a golden blur, slashing the bear repeatedly and sending magical leaves flying. Despite the damage, the bear does not back down. The director notes a normal summon would have vanished, praising the creature's loyalty. The instructor is surprisingly agile, evading the cabbage bear's attacks and striking back with force. The director watches critically from the sidelines, wondering if the instructor, Old Ji, is struggling against a student. Meanwhile, Lin Feng remains unbothered. He knows his undead servants feel no pain, so a fatal wound is just a scratch he can fix with mana. The instructor sweats, realizing he is losing face. He admits Lin Feng is more talented than expected, and decides to get serious. He smirks at Lin Feng, promising to pay for the dead summon, and tells him to watch closely. The instructor activates a powerful skill called Bloodthirst, and lunges forward, stabbing his glowing blade deep into the cabbage bear. The fatal attack shatters the summon into green light, and it disappears. With the creature gone, the instructor crosses his arms and laughs, looking smug about his victory. He teases Lin Feng, saying it is okay to cry over his dead summon. Lin Feng pretends to be devastated, wiping fake tears to maintain his cover. However, the instructor's victory is short-lived. Lin Feng's expression turns cold as green energy surges around him again. The instructor is shocked by the change, wondering if the boy's grief was so strong it shut down his emotions. Suddenly, massive vines erupt from the ground at Lin Feng's feet. The vines shoot out and bind the instructor tightly. He struggles, yelling that Lin Feng is playing dirty with so many summons. The two are at a stalemate, with Lin Feng controlling the vines trapping the instructor. Unwilling to lose, the instructor roars and shatters the vines with golden energy. Before the fight escalates, the director steps forward, unleashing a terrifying glare. He commands them to stop. A wave of his hand releases blue energy that separates them, ending the assessment. The director approves of Lin Feng, declaring him qualified for the academy. However, he adds that all nature-type instructors are away at war, so no one is available to teach him. With the assessment over, Lin Feng asks the director if he will still receive his cultivation resources. The director reassures him he will get his standard resources. He adds that because Lin Feng performed so well, he gets one special request. The director waits, expecting him to ask for a high-tier item or weapon. Lin Feng realizes that gaining freedom and resources is a perfect outcome. To the director's surprise, Lin Feng cheerfully asks for a piece of land. The director is confused. He asks for clarification, not understanding why a student would want dirt over high-grade equipment. Lin Feng smiles and explains his logic. As a spirit farm lord, he is useless without a farm for his crops. Accepting the logic, the director agrees. He offers Lin Feng a training wasteland west of the city to use as he likes, telling him to find him later if he needs anything else. Elsewhere on the academy grounds, the assessment continues for other students. Inside the administrative building, a door is marked Principal's Office. Inside, a man reviews Lin Feng's file, commenting that the spirit farm lord occupation is interesting. Suddenly, the pink-haired instructor bursts in. She calls the man Principal and says she has urgent news. She hands him a tablet with grim news. The report is about Tuka, the investigator Lin Feng fought. He has been found brutally murdered, with dark magic marks and a hole in his chest. Staff confirmed a necromancer killed him, and now suspect one has infiltrated the academy. Lin Feng reaches a secluded forest path, using a map to confirm he's at the West City Training Wasteland. He surveys the desolate woods, confirming it's the land assigned by the director. He activates the land deed, and a green magical contract materializes in his hand. A system window confirms the location. Fengchuan City West City Training Land, 100 Mu, owned by the Extraordinary Academy. A notification confirms a 1-year lease and an active repulsion barrier to keep intruders out, giving Lin Feng exclusive use. Lin Feng complains that a 1-year lease is stingy, but figures it's because most students head to the battlefield after a year. He sets his complaints aside, spreads his arms wide, and declares that with 100 Mu to himself, he finally feels like a spirit farm lord. He points to the sky using his necromancy mana to open summoning rifts. He summons his entire undead workforce, elite spirits Yueye and He Xiao, plus his bear and lizard minions. Grinning, he points to the wasteland and orders his army to work. The undead minions start farming. He Xiao, the undead hound, uses his lethal claws to violently till the earth. Yueye, the undead sage, uses water magic to cut down trees and irrigate the land at the same time. The massive undead bear pulls a plow as smaller spirits scatter seeds, turning the monsters into efficient farmhands. While his minions work, Lin Feng relaxes on a lounge chair with sunglasses and watermelon, thinking how magic improves life. A pale, clawed hand suddenly taps his shoulder, interrupting his break. Lin Feng lowers his sunglasses and asks if they've already cleared the land. He's surprised by their initiative, impressed they reported back without orders. He hears a strange, awkward chuckle from behind him. He turns to see Yueye, the undead sage, scratching his head in a confused, human-like way. Lin Feng sighs, realizing the laugh was just a reflex. Expecting complex consciousness from his undead was asking too much. Lin Feng turns his back, ignoring the awkward interaction. Behind him, the undead sage stares blankly. A stiff, artificial smile is fixed on his face. Later, Lin Feng is inside his greenhouse, checking on his special crops. A system interface shows the unripe plants already offer permanent buffs, like +1 life, +1 attack, and +1 constitution. Lin Feng beams, thinking that while others endure bitter cultivation, he gains strength just by eating his crops. His expression turns serious as he considers his power's potential. If he could mass-produce these crops, the demon tribe would become powerless. He realizes he can't plant these magical crops openly and decides to use ordinary crops outside as camouflage for his greenhouse. 3 days later, the farm is in full swing. Shovels dig into the earth, harvesting potatoes. Lin Feng instructs his undead army how to dig carefully to avoid damaging the produce. Watching his undead monsters work the fields, Lin Feng is satisfied with their increased planting speed. Suddenly, Lin Feng's face shows shock as he shouts for a minion to stop. He spots an undead lizard secretly eating a freshly dug potato. Lin Feng stares at the lizard, which looks back with guilt. A blue system screen appears, showing the undead lizard temporarily reached level 6 with increased bone density and defense. Lin Feng silently studies the data, realizing the lizard only ate 1 potato. He touches his chin, realizing his undead summons can also get stat boosts from his crops. He then begins to experiment, recording the effects on his army. That night, a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes watches the farm. The intruder, a blue-haired man in tactical gear, watches from a rooftop. He finds the new buildings bizarre, as they weren't there on his last scout. The intruder arrogantly draws a dagger, scoffing that he can easily slice through the greenhouse's thin wall. Peeking through the glass, he sees Lin Feng sleeping in a hammock. He wonders if the single guard is a trap. As he steps closer, a beeping sound alarms him. Panicked, he looks down and realizes he triggered something. He leaps away just as the ground explodes, barely dodging the blast and skidding across the roof. The explosion source is a potato mine, a cute, round creature with an antenna that chirps before detonating. The assassin evades the initial blast, twisting in midair. He lands and smirks, confident his low-level opponent is no match for him. His confidence vanishes as the ground rumbles and dozens of potato mines erupt, surrounding him. The assassin sweats, cursing and wondering what these strange creatures are. A massive chain reaction starts as the mines detonate one by one, engulfing the area in blinding light. The entire rooftop is consumed by the explosions. From the smoke, a glowing green sapling suddenly sprouts from the ground. The magical energy intensifies as the sapling rapidly grows into a female figure made of vines. The nature spirit surges with power, her eyes glowing purple and green. She glares at the intruder, radiating a dangerous aura. The assassin is blown back by the magic and smoke, cursing the overwhelming situation. He lands, battered and dirty, grumbling that he only came here twice to gain the Grand Duke's trust. He refuses to retreat, wipes blood from his face, and grips his dagger. He decides to cut down the nature spirit to stop the explosions. In the dark, the assassin furiously slashes at the magical vines attacking him. As he fights, he's confused by a distinct, undead aura coming from the nature beasts. An impossible combination. The aura triggers a memory. A demon tribe bishop ordered him to Fengchuan City to find the necromancer He Xiao, who vanished after a contract with their race. The assassin now believes he has solved the mystery. This farm is He Xiao's secret hiding place. Moving through the crops with disdain, he assumes He Xiao betrayed their race to practice some secret art here. The assassin decides fighting the plants is a waste of time and retreats into the night. He resolves to prioritize finding He Xiao's location rather than staying in the trap. The next morning, the farm looks peaceful again. Lin Feng happily walks to his fields with a hoe, recalling he finished fertilizing most seeds yesterday. His face suddenly freezes in shock. Stunned, he drops his hoe, which clatters to the ground. He stands before a massive crater, staring in despair at the wreckage of his destroyed greenhouse. Before he can process the damage, a massive shadow falls over him from the sky. Lin Feng's sadness turns to serious alertness as he senses a powerful presence. A black dragon descends, carrying 2 figures in uniforms. Lin Feng recognizes the enforcement team and anxiously wonders why they are at his farm. The enforcement team inspects the perimeter. Their detector confirms the source of demonic energy is right there. They are suspicious of the wasteland's sudden changes. They try to enter, but the system blocks them, showing the land is legally leased. An officer checks his files, acknowledging the lease but insisting they must be cautious about potential demons. He waves through the blue barrier, identifying them as the enforcement team. Lin Feng stares nervously, panicking internally about why the authorities are here. The officer explains their instruments detected demonic energy on the property and politely asks Lin Feng to open the barrier for an inspection. Lin Feng feigns innocence, asking how there could be demonic energy on land he just rented. However, another officer appears, angrily asking why a simple farmer is taking so long to open the gate. The new officer flares a fiery aura, revealing an investigator was recently killed by a demon, making this site very suspicious. He glares at Lin Feng with glowing orange eyes, accusing him of being a demon tribe spy. Facing the dangerous accusation, Lin Feng stands silently, sweat on his face as he realizes the gravity of the situation. Outside the West City Training Wasteland's barrier, the situation is tense. Haru aggressively yells at Lin Feng, demanding the spy surrender. His partner, the bespectacled officer, tries to calm the situation. He warns Haru not to be impulsive, but admits Lin Feng is suspicious due to Tuka's recent death and the demonic energy. Taking a diplomatic approach, the bespectacled officer politely asks Lin Feng to cooperate and open the barrier. Lin Feng knows he can't let them find the undead army inside. He needs a way to make them leave without a fight. He decides to play the victim, looking sad and complaining that people look down on his lowly job. He claims they're pinning a crime on him just for wanting a quiet place to farm. The bespectacled officer feels sympathy and puts a hand on Haru's shoulder, saying the boy is pitiful enough. This only makes Haru more furious. He screams that anyone can act pitiful and refuses to back down. Losing his temper, Haru's fist glows with golden energy as he charges at Lin Feng to force a reaction. Haru lands a powerful palm strike on Lin Feng's chest with a massive impact. However, Lin Feng stands perfectly still, confused. He panics, realizing his high constitution stat made him feel nothing, which reveals he is no normal farmer. Realizing he must sell the act, he decides to fake an injury. Lin Feng throws himself to the ground. Haru looks at his hand, then at the student, suspicious, asking how he isn't dead after such a powerful blow. Committing to the act, Lin Feng looks up in pain and accuses the officers of trying to torture a confession from him to close the case. Seeing Lin Feng's green aura, another officer scolds Haru. He explains it's pure nature mana, which demons hate, proving the boy can't be a spy. The bespectacled officer helps Lin Feng up, apologizing for the misunderstanding. He promises to clear his name in their report. Having deceived them, Lin Feng warmly thanks the officer, calling him a just official. The officer humbly replies he is just doing his duty. Haru, unable to let go of his anger, roars at Lin Feng. He raises his hand, preparing to strike Lin Feng again in a rage. However, his partners immediately step in to block the attack, stopping him from making a huge mistake. Haru glares at his partners with intense fury, grinding his teeth, but he eventually backs down. Realizing they can't continue, the officers fly away, leaving the farm. Alone, Lin Feng watches them leave. He realizes farming in peace is impossible, and he needs more power to protect himself from such threats. Suddenly, a magical paper crane appears before him. As Lin Feng walks back, the paper crane follows, delivering a message from the Academic Affairs Office. It orders him to the Academy drill ground the next morning for a new student entrance ability test and grading battle. The crane vanishes. Lin Feng sighs, lamenting how hard it is to live a peaceful life. On a distant cliff, two powerful figures watch Lin Feng. A woman senses the farm's energy, exclaiming the nature mana is incredibly pure and majestic. She asks the man beside her if the boy is just a farmer. The man, the Academy's principal, says he isn't sure, but the system lists him as a spirit farm lord. The principal teases her, asking if the level 50 Nature Archmage is impressed by the boy's talent. The woman suspects Lin Feng has secrets, but confirms his pure nature magic clears him of suspicion. Demons would be repulsed by such a pure life aura. Satisfied the boy isn't a threat, the principal says the show is just beginning and signals for them to leave. Surrounded by green wind magic, the two figures vanish. The next morning, new students gather at the Academy drill ground. They are confused and complaining about another test after already finishing interviews and choosing instructors. The students are frustrated, as they thought classes would start immediately. Lin Feng stands quietly in the crowd, listening to a student brag about having inside information on the test, but refusing to share it. The pink-haired instructor calls for silence, acknowledging their confusion about another sudden test. She reveals a bombshell. The demon offensive has intensified, endangering the city's defenses. The Academy must deploy students to the front line immediately. The students panic, complaining they enrolled to study, not to be sent to war. The instructor sternly explains that if the fortress falls, demons will invade the city. This is a mandatory conscription to save humanity. In the crowd, Eiling looks worried as a young boy beside her calls out nervously. Lin Feng stands calmly, hands in his pockets. Eiling glances at him with a blush, thinking someone so excellent might be drafted. The instructor orders all freshmen to the drill ground for combat tests. As he walks, Lin Feng thinks a farmer won't be picked for the front line, which is good for his farming plans. In the arena, a female student mocks Lin Feng's occupation, asking if the spirit farm lord is only good at hiding. She poses arrogantly and threatens to burn him to ash. She blasts fire at him, but Lin Feng dodges easily. He insults her slow speed and weak fire, saying it couldn't even roast potatoes. The girl is furious at his insult. She begins a dramatic chant to summon a flame spirit. Lin Feng watches silently as she continues her long incantation. Suddenly, he interrupts by punching her in the stomach, criticizing her long cast time. The girl flies out of the arena, and Lin Feng is declared the winner. After a winning streak, Lin Feng decides he's won enough to pass. He plans to lose the next match to avoid drawing too much attention. Vera, the nature archmage, approaches Lin Feng after his victories. She gives him water and compliments his performance, saying his talent qualifies him for a higher platform. Lin Feng looks at her curiously, asking what she means by a higher platform. Vera wants him to earn credits to get into the prestigious Sunwheel Academy. She lists benefits like better techniques, powerful instructors, and legendary weapons. However, Lin Feng seems unimpressed. He politely rejects her offer, saying he doesn't need those things, which surprises Vera. Vera is shocked by his refusal. She asks what he could possibly want if not power or legendary items. With a confident smile, Lin Feng reveals his simple desire, a bigger piece of land to farm in peace. Confused, Vera asks him to clarify his goal. She wants to know what he will do after farming the land, assuming it is just a means to an end. Lin Feng explains his plan is to farm more land so everyone can. Vera misinterprets this, thinking recovering more land means reclaiming human territory from the demon tribe. The principal interrupts, noting Lin Feng is already developing the Western Wasteland. He asks if that large plot isn't enough for him. Lin Feng laughs like a simple peasant and tells the principal that with farming, the more land, the better. Suddenly, the system announces the next match. Lin Feng versus Ai Ling. Smiling, Lin Feng declares he's ready to face the girl he helped earlier. As Lin Feng walks off, the principal calls him honest. Vera, still misunderstanding his ambition, suggests they give him the land he wants. The principal gives Vera a knowing look, realizing she has taken a liking to the student and wants to recruit him. Vera remarks that Lin Feng is an interesting kid. Lin Feng's match with Ai Ling begins. She stands ready, admitting she never expected to fight him. Her expression turns serious as she declares she won't hold back and will go all out. Lin Feng, however, smiles. He tries to de-escalate by lying that he can't beat her and will surrender. Ai Ling takes his surrender attempt as an insult. Furious, she shouts and charges at him at high speed. Lin Feng looks stressed, annoyed she's using her strongest phase instead of accepting his surrender. Forced to defend himself, Lin Feng summons his nature magic, causing green energy to erupt from the ground. Thick vines shoot up and wrap around Ai Ling's body, trying to immobilize her. However, Ai Ling proves her strength. She twists and kicks, cleanly slicing through the vines to free herself. From the sidelines, Vera is stunned. She asks the principal if a student under level 10 can have such pure mana. He confirms he was also shocked. Fascinated, Vera remarks that even a level 80 nature user she knows lacks mana as pure as his. Predicting his future is limitless. In the arena, Ai Ling's fire magic clashes with Lin Feng's vines. Watching this, Vera makes a shocking decision. She wants Lin Feng as her teacher. The principal, thinking he misheard, agrees it's a good idea for her to be his teacher. Vera quickly corrects him. She clarifies it's the other way around. She wants him to be her teacher. The principal looks at her in disbelief, asking if the demons burned her brain. Vera smiles obsessively, replying that even if her brain is burnt, she is determined to be his student.
This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.